All right, so get this. Trump is back in the White House.
Oh, boy.
And he's brought back Tom Homan. Remember him?
Yeah, how could you forget?
The guy behind that whole zero tolerance thing at the border.
Yeah, family separations. It was...
Full mess.
It really was.
Well, he's back.
Oh, no.
And with a plan to deport 20 million undocumented immigrants.
20 million.
I know, right?
It's huge.
It's massive.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, Homan's been around for a while.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's got over 30 years in immigration enforcement.
Wow.
Started as a local police officer, worked his way up to running ICE's deportation branch.
Hold on, ICE under Obama.
You got it.
But Obama was tough on immigration too, wasn't he?
He was definitely criticized for it by immigrant rights groups. I mean, they called him the deporter-in-chief even.
And Homan was working for him during all of this.
Yep, right there with him. Homan even got a Distinguished Presidential Rank Award from Obama.
Seriously.
For deportation.
You know, his role in them, yeah.
So the guy some are calling the border czar now was carrying out these policies under a Democrat.
Seems kind of ironic, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes you wonder what's so different about this new plan that's got everyone so riled up.
Well, I mean, the scale of it is just unheard of. 20 million deportations would be a total nightmare, logistically and financially.
Yeah, how could they even?
Exactly. And it's not just deportations. He wants to finish the wall, bring back, remain in Mexico, and even label Mexican drug cartels as terrorists.
Well, hold on. So we've got mass deportations, a border wall, and going after cartels. This is way beyond just tweaking a few things. This sounds like a complete system reboot.
It is. And then there's Homan's role in all of this. He's basically in charge of all border security, land, sea, air, the whole shebang. He answers directly to Trump.
And no need to get the Senate's okay.
Nope, that's right. It's a ton of power with no real oversight.
That's a little scary. And what about this cartel thing? Isn't that going to cause problems?
Oh, absolutely. It has huge implications for how we deal with Mexico. It could mean sending troops in, even.
Mexico's already not thrilled with this whole plan. They're not going to like that.
Not one bit. And it makes things tricky for people trying to escape the cartels and claim asylum here.
Right. If we're fighting them, how can we also be protecting people from them?
Exactly. It's a mess. So yeah, I think we can see why people are freaking out about this.
No kidding. But before we dive into all the potential fallout, let's break down Homan's plan step by step.
Sounds good. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with these deportations.
Yeah.
Homan's saying he's going after threats to public safety and people whose asylum claims were denied, but it seems like anyone here illegally could be targeted.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
That's a lot of people. How are they even going to find them all?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Just trying to round up, detain, and process that many people. It's mind-blowing.
Not to mention the legal battles.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
It's just crazy to think about the sheer scale of this.
Right. It's not just numbers on a page, though. We're talking about real people. Millions of lives.
Families torn apart, uprooted. It doesn't seem like there's much thought given to the human cost.
Well, that's exactly what a lot of people are saying. They're arguing that this is just going to lead to more human rights violations. Especially if the government tries to rush things.
Yeah, if they cut corners to meet quotas or whatever.
Exactly. And they're saying, look at what happened with zero tolerance. That's a perfect example of how this can go wrong.
Those images of kids separated from their parents. I mean...
It was awful.
It's hard to forget that.
Yeah, it's a real concern. And is Homan saying anything about this?
Not really. I mean, he's basically saying that if you're here illegally, you can be deported. Doesn't matter what your situation is.
Even if you have kids.
He says families can be deported together, but...
I mean, how is that even going to work?
Right. It's not like they have a system set up for mass family deportations.
And let's not forget, this is the same guy who pushed for zero tolerance under Obama.
Yeah, that doesn't exactly inspire confidence.
Nope. So on top of everything else, there's the question of whether this is even legal. Can the president just decide to deport millions of people like that?
I mean, Congress has to have some say, right?
You'd think so. A lot of legal experts are saying this is way beyond the president's authority, that it violates people's rights.
What rights?
Due process. For one thing, being undocumented isn't a crime. It's a civil issue.
Oh, right.
And even for people who cross the border illegally, there's a process that has to be followed.
It sounds like Homan's just ignoring all that.
It seems that way. So we've got logistical issues, human rights concerns, legal challenges. I mean, is anyone on board with this plan?
What's Homan even saying? What's his justification for all of this?
His main argument is that the system is broken, that it's not protecting the country.
Because?
He says undocumented immigrants are a threat to public safety and national security.
But is there any proof of that?
Not really. Studies have shown that immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are actually less likely to commit crimes than people born here.
So if it's not about facts, what is it about?
It makes you wonder if this is more about politics than actual policy.
Like appealing to a certain segment of voters?
Possibly. We've seen that before.
Definitely. Yeah, using fear and rhetoric to demonize immigrants to get votes.
And it often works. So the question is, will it work this time?
I mean, Homan's facing a lot of opposition.
He is, but he's got Trump behind him. And we know Trump's not afraid of a fight.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what's next? What do you think's going to happen?
Well, one thing's for sure. This isn't going away anytime soon. There are going to be lawsuits, protests, political battles. The outcome's anyone's guess, but the stakes are huge.
The whole immigration system could change. And our relationship with Mexico.
Not to mention the impact on all those individuals and families.
It's pretty overwhelming when you think about it.
It is, and that's why it's so important to stay informed and engaged. We need to understand what's at stake and what the alternatives are. This isn't just about politics, this is about people's lives.
You're right. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
Mine too.
And we're not done yet. There's one more piece of this plan we need to talk about.
Yeah.
That whole thing about labeling Mexican drug cartels as terrorists.
Right, we can't just gloss over that. It could have major consequences.
Yeah, we got to unpack that one. So what does that designation even mean? What happens if we do that?
Yeah.
We'll dig into that right after the break. All right, so we're back. And we've got to talk about this whole cartel thing, labeling them as terrorists.
Yeah, this is a big one.
It just feels like adding fuel to the fire.
It definitely complicates things. I mean, on the one hand, they are incredibly violent. They traffic drugs, they destabilize whole regions.
So why not call them what they are?
I get that, but there's a lot more to it than that. It could really backfire.
How so?
Well, for one thing, it could lead to even more U.S. military involvement in Mexico.
You mean like sending in troops?
Exactly. We'd basically be at war with them. And that could really strain our relationship with Mexico.
I mean, they're already not happy with Homan's plan.
Right. And it's not just about diplomacy. Think about the people living there. More military action will probably mean more violence, more people forced from their homes.
It's a mess. And what about the people trying to escape the cartels? Come here for asylum.
That's a huge issue. If we're at war with the cartels, how can we also be protecting people from them?
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
It's a real dilemma. We're trying to crack down on the cartels, but we also have this obligation to help people fleeing them.
It seems like this terrorist label could actually make things worse.
It might. Instead of all this military stuff, maybe we should be focusing on what's causing all this violence in the first place.
Getting at the root of the problem.
Exactly. But what does Homan say about all this?
He's all about strength, showing force. He thinks that's the only way to stop illegal immigration and take down the cartels.
Deterrence, basically.
Yeah, he's framing it as national security protecting Americans.
But wouldn't that just make people resent us more? Create more instability?
That's what a lot of people are worried about.
And there's historical precedent for that. Look at what's happened with past U.S. interventions in Latin America.
It hasn't always gone so well.
Not at all. So here we are with this plan that's logistically impossible, legally questionable, ethically shaky, and might not even work.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. And it all comes down to this. What kind of country do we want to be? Do we want to be the country that builds walls and calls everyone terrorists? Or do we want to be the country that upholds human rights and tries to help people?
Those are big questions.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't have the answers.
And that's okay. I think the important thing is that we're asking them, that we're talking about this stuff. It's easy to get caught up in the headlines and the political drama, but we need to dig deeper, look at the nuances, understand the human cost.
It's been a really intense deep dive, I have to say.
It has, but a necessary one.
Absolutely. So for our listeners out there who are now probably feeling a little overwhelmed, what can they do? What advice would you give them?
I'd say stay curious. Don't just accept easy answers or sound bites. Look for different perspectives. Read more than just the headlines. Talk to people who disagree with you.
Get out of your echo chamber.
Exactly. You don't have to become an expert overnight. Just stay informed, stay engaged.
Because this issue affects all of us.
It really does. Well, this has been quite the conversation.
It has. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Anytime. And to everyone listening, keep asking those tough questions. Stay informed. And remember, your voice matters.